And so
droning on about
today he is here with all of his toys. And so I will not go into any further introduction because Andy is a force in and of himself, and you guys will have a great time today. This will be enjoyable. So thanks, Andy. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I wanted to note that my outfit was intentional today because if you're going to do technology, it's important to remember that not all technology is new. And I'm going to pass these glasses around. Not only do they give you a great Teddy Roosevelt look, but I want you to try these on. I'm going to start over on the other end of the room, and I want you to look down at your program and ask yourself whether you've ever bought a pair of magnifying glasses at a store or had a pair of prescription lenses that were as good as the one that you can pick up in an antique store. These are the ones that I wear in court when I have to look down at text at oral argument, or I have to look down at a sheet of questions when I'm examining a witness to make sure I've gotten all the points that I want to get. This allows you to put them on the bridge of your nose, look over, see the people, and it has some style to it that those gawky ones that you get in the drugstore don't have. So we're going to start with our show and tell program, and if you could just pass them around after you've had a chance to view them. The other thing that you may notice is that we have a cell phone camera on the table with a little tripod type device attached to it, and we have a digital camera, more traditional SD card going at the same time. And throughout the program, I'm going to be making a point about technology. And for mid to small size firms, the most important word that you can remember is design redundancy. Okay? A small firm collapses if their computer system fails, if they haven't planned for the failure. So let's say you have a desk and your secretary has a desk and you have a simple direct connection computer network system. Each of your computers, do not get a laptop for your office. You can get a notebook, a small laptop device like this, to take to court. And it does not have to have the world's biggest hard drive. And the reason why it doesn't have to have the world's biggest hard drive is because you can buy one of these. Ah! By the way, that was theatrics. The great thing about these are they're almost foolproof. I said in the drone show, and I'll say it again, never use the term foolproof because you're clearly underestimating fools. But this, my passport, there is a technology point that small, mid-sized practices need to know, and that's the second most important word that you'll hear repeatedly today, and the word is encryption. A lot of people have smartphones. You all have smartphones in your pocket. And you have emails that you've gotten on those smartphones. Do you have security on those smartphones? Because if you lose that phone and you don't have security on your phone, all of your clients' confidences are now readily available. My phone, I use a fingerprint scanner on it. If it were to go off during the program, Brian could not start it back up because it takes my fingerprint to unlock the phone or a password that's 27 letters. And if you can guess it and not be insulted, good luck with that. I have a tendency to make some of my passwords insulting. And the reason is, if you're going to break into my system, I at least want you to know what I think about you. But this particular passport, very inexpensive, less than $100, and it takes a terabyte of data. A terabyte of data, I don't care, I'm not going to pick on you, Tom, but let's take we'll take this table over here. How many years have you been practicing law?
I was admitted in 1960.
Okay, so we're talking 55 years, plus or minus. Okay, and in that time, you have killed literally dozens of forests, right? Okay. Every single piece of paper you ever wrote, if it was scanned through a PDF scanner, would fit neatly on this hard drive with enough room for all of his wife's baby pictures. And that's a lot of pictures. Now, having this with your notebook allows you to have your office wherever you are. So when you go to a court conference and somebody makes up a story about a piece of paper or an email, if you have a terabyte encrypted hard drive in your brief bag, you pull out your netbook, you pull up the document, and you call bovine scatology. Yeah. That and cafocted are my words for the day. Here are things that you should not do. Although they are, I have to say, you know, when you got Yoda, Darth Vader, and a stormtrooper as thumb drives, okay, there is some humor to it. And quite frankly, there are some opposing counsels that deserve character thumb drives for document production. And if you want to make a particular point to a particular opposing counsel, delivering the documents in that manner is not a bad idea. I did want to note, to give you an idea of the progress that we have made, if you look at these two hard drives, for those of you who have never taken apart your computer, these are the hard drives on a desktop computer. Okay? This one is a 20 gigabyte hard drive, and I never destroy a hard drive. You never know when a piece of data you had from an eon ago is going to be useful, and if you throw it away, it's not secure. I mean, the only way to destroy a hard drive effectively is a really good cement bit drill right through the hard drive about 5 times. That'll make it difficult for the best of reconstructionists. But if you're not going to do that, then you should keep them. But it's also important to label them. So on this one, it says MEG. That means it was my Secretary Maxine's hard drive. And it's a 20 gig. That gives me a rough idea of when it was. But I put the operating system on it. Each of the hard drives that I take out, now here's a trick for small business practices. You've got a client who needs to prove something that happened 20 years ago. And lo and behold, the old computer is in fact back in his basement, but it doesn't run. All of these devices are capable of being powered up and run as a peripheral. And I brought 2 devices with me to show. If you've got a modern computer with what they call a SATA, an SATA, okay? You can go right to Best Buy. You can take the thing out of your hard drive, plug this into the old hard drive, and transfer your data to your new computer, okay? Direct transfer. For those of us who anticipated the existence of those devices, long before they had those, if you broke apart an old laptop, they had the SATA pin, but they also had the multi-pins. And whether you were using one of the big hard drives or the little hard drives, you can use the cable, power it up, and use a direct peripheral. If you owned one peripheral, you could take it apart and make every other hard drive accessible, which allows you to go back and gather data from an old hard drive. And if you're talking about old school evidence collection, you know, they are really good at wiping things, they're really good at, but if you ask, do you store any old computers, where are they? A lot of times you can pick up data that you wouldn't imagine you could. I will also note that anyone who thinks that they've deleted something from their computer is an idiot. Okay? First of all, it's illegal in the United States. If you had sufficient encryption to actually delete it from your computer, you would be breaking federal regulations relating to encryption. All of the encryption programs have backdoors, which means that the police, the reason why somebody from a major corporation might want to throw their computer into the river is because that's about the only way, short of the drilling method, to destroy the computer. I guess he was going to say, oops, it fell off the bridge. I don't know. With regard to the program materials, I just, you know, I do a brochure for everything, and this time was no difference. And so I think I'm going to go quickly through these and then get back to the show and tell. But while we're doing this, you may have noticed my able assistant here, our intern. What's your name, sir? Grant. Grant, the assistant at the Bar Association, is studiously taking notes with a digital pen. Now, the key to this particular pen is it works on dot matrix paper. And so it is taking an image of the writing electronically while he's writing. But it is also taking stereo audio. When you connect it back to your computer, you can put your cursor on any word in your notes, and it will jump to the audio, and you can play the audio. This is also a Wi-Fi compatible one. This is 3rd gen. And so this particular one, I can actually put an inkless cartridge where the pen is. You know, one that's run out of ink. And I can take notes in a deposition. And I can pull up my iPad, and I can see my own notes, but there's no way that son of a gun sitting across the table, you know the guy who's always looking across the table at your notes and reading them, as if you're going to write down the secret to your case in the middle of a deposition. I actually did it once just to yank the guy's chain. And quite frankly, you know, what is the practice of law but occasional moments of having fun at the other guy's expense? Anyway, the electronic notes, there's a very practical application, and I think for small and mid-sized firms it's really important. And if you happen to be from a big firm, pretend like I didn't tell you, okay? If you're in trial, you often have two choices. You can listen carefully to what's being said, or you can take notes. But you can't do both. With this device, you can. With this device, you simply write something when you hear something that you think you want to go back to. And you can write literally the word something, because it does not matter what you write. You can just write numbers down. I've done that. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then on the break, you can play back on the pen what was just said. You can't do it in court, but it is fun in a deposition when somebody gets caught up in a question. They're like, "Could you read that question back to me?" And instead of reading it back, you just touch the place on the pen, and they hear the voice read the question, speak the question again, and then you hit it back off and you say, "Will that do?" And the look on their face, well, you know, the pen, $299, the pad, you know, $35, the look on his face, priceless. Since we're doing the look on his face priceless, and because I never follow a script, I'm going to switch to the next most important detail for small and mid-sized business practices. I don't accept credit cards. I never will. I don't do it because I don't want people buying legal services on credit. That concept bothers me. But a lot of attorneys want to use credit cards, but they don't want to set up a POS system, you know, point of service system for their office. So PayPal and other companies, I didn't want to advertise just one, so I brought two. They have handy devices for your smartphone, plugs into your smartphone, and the way they set these up is kind of cool. You electronically give the company your banking information, and they put a 1 cent or 2 cent deposit and a 1 cent or 2 cent withdrawal to confirm, and then you have to plug in the amount to confirm that yes, it's your account, and yes, you're doing it on the phone that was authorized to do it. But after that, you can literally take payments on your cell phone, which I think the one thing that it really should be utilized, holiday parties. You know, as soon as they find out you're a lawyer, they want free legal advice. And I think if you just pop that PayPal thing and say, it's $300 an hour, how can I help you? I think that you're going to cut down on the whole holiday party problem. Does anybody know what this is? Anybody a big fan of the old floppy disk? I was going to bring the 5.5-inch floppy, but the reader is too big. What I wanted you to know is that most people our age think that these are useless because none of the computers run them anymore. Contraire, mes amis, not so. you can go online and you can get a handy floppy disk reader. So all those people who did backups on floppy disks, we can still get your data for you. All those people who did slides, this one I love. I'm not plugging it in. SD card in the back, power into it. You can take either slides or negatives and you can view them. It enhances them. You push the button, it saves it to the SD card. The reason why I like this is, you know when somebody tells you that you gotta collect up all the old photographs or whatever, and we're gonna digitize them? You can do this sucker sitting in front of the TV watching a football game. Because you just put the thing in, push it down, push the button, push it down, push the button. It's an auto, so if you have a lot of data that you want to retrieve, a lot of old pictures, that's a great device. On the same scale, put a SD card in the back of this device from Pan Digital. There's several different models and makes of this, but you simply slip that old picture that you had, slide it through, and it scans it digitally, puts it into a file, and all the pictures, like when a witness comes in with a stack of photographs, okay? This is, thank you, Mr. Intern, I'm gonna hand you this, I'm gonna hand you the stack of photographs, I'm gonna say, enjoy the baseball game, because you're gonna put on the radio whatever you like. I am not going to, I was gonna play Hey You Get Off My Cloud. I actually pulled it up on Netflix, on Spotify, but that would probably be, I don't know, unprofessional. God knows, I like to preserve the standards, so we're not going to do that. But this is a really nice device. If you are having a video conference, okay, and the sound on a laptop video conference is notoriously hideous. This is a Bose quality Wi-Fi speaker that connects to your cell phone, connects to your computer, and this will give the whole room more sound than you need. Everybody has that one opposing counsel that off camera in a videotape deposition or in a deposition that's not scheduled for video just does the show, okay? And there is one way to cut the show. You take that little tripod thing that's on the cell phone camera, you put it on this. This is a GoPro. It was designed for export kits. You can put it on a helmet, you can put it on the front of your kayak, but I like to put it at the back of the deposition table. Okay? If you want to get everybody to play nice, you put it at the back of the deposition table. And if he refuses to allow you to put it back at the deposition table, he's pretty much certified his misbehavior for you. And I will tell you, it's like when you have two divorced people, you get a divorce case, and they can't play nicely together, and you tell them, okay, from now on when you communicate, you're going to copy the lawyers on the email. You know, the lawyers don't have to actually read it, they don't have to do anything about it. We just want the lawyer's name on the email, because if you do that, suddenly the adjectives disappear. You put one of these cameras, this is a fisheye lens on it, you put one of these cameras, suddenly the gesticulating drama leaves the room. Elvis has left the building. I'm really torn up about this watch, okay? This was gonna be my go-to today because I have a Gear S watch, the Samsung cell phone watch that I can control that video camera from a little display thing on here. I can answer a phone. I could have had my associate dial me up. Hello, this is Dick Tracy. Can't do that today because, you remember I said something about design redundancy earlier? Okay, because earlier this week, the watch works fine. I could still take phone calls on it. I just don't have a display. They manufacture it, doesn't work. Of course, it broke in time for the show. That's not a problem because I did bring my backup and smile. You are, in fact, on candid camera. I do want to note that I went from this watch. I do not recommend this watch at all. If that watch was working, this watch would not be on my hand. And the reason is, it's really cool the first 10 times you use it. After that, it just feels creepy. Because, I mean, think about it. I'm a 50-year-old guy walking around with a spy camera on my hand. I mean, that ain't right. So, nice as the original gear is, clever as the camera on the watch idea was, not going with it. But on this one, what I like about this one, and you know, this is small and solo practice technology. This is great technology, okay, for 3 reasons. One, you really don't have to worry about taking your cell phone into court because this is a cell phone. You can put this on mute, you can put this on Do Not Disturb, but you can still get texts. You can still read emails, hell, you can still read news. You can go to a web page, you can watch a video. I wouldn't recommend doing it in Judge Clark's courtroom. Fortunately, that's not a problem anymore. But I can just see him saying, hand me your watch, Mr. Barber. I would have lived for that. Hand me your watch, Mr. Barber. But these devices have something that's far more practical for attorneys. We do something every day that we should not do. You're doing it right now, and I'm not. You're sitting. And you're sitting continuously. Almost all day, most days. This watch is a Fitbit as well as a watch. It has a pulse meter, and you can set it to remind you that you haven't moved for 2 hours. You know, it doesn't say get off your lazy ass and walk around. It just gives you this nice chirping tone to kind of remind you that you're supposed to move. The other thing it does is you can set a goal. Now, the default setting is 10,000 steps. And there are some lean and hungry, Cassius-looking people here. I'm not one of them. So I set mine down at 6,000, and that's a goal that I don't meet every day, but I do meet it. And that's the key. If you're going to use fit technology, set the goals at a level that you can actually do. And that may not sound like CLE seminar material, but it is, because quite frankly, if you're not healthy, you can't practice law. And lawyers look around, most of us, when we get older, we get heavier, and we get the problems that come with being heavier. So there are other technologies. For example, I have asthma. And if I didn't lose it yet, here's a device for people who have breathing and health problems. Good technology. This is a oxygen reader. You push the little button, and you can tell whether you need asthma medicine or not. Let's see whether we get how we're doing here. I'm dead. No, just the show, Okay. My pulse rate, obviously energetic and energized at 120, but the good news is my oxygen level is 96, which means that I have balanced my medications already. Let's go over, on the thumb drives. The one problem with memory cards and thumb drives that most attorneys don't think about and should is they're just like your cell phone, only worse, because they can't be locked. Okay? You have a duty of confidentiality. In fact, in the materials, I allude to the fact that the new model code, which will, in a year at most, become the new ethics code, has a specific provision that a lawyer has a duty to understand the technology and to take reasonable measures to protect the integrity of the client confidences, which gets me to why I wanted to play, hey, you get off of my cloud. If you are not a tech-savvy person, if this is not your love, get the heck off the cloud. No documents should ever go up to the cloud. No documents should ever go down from the cloud that you wouldn't give to your adversary. If they're documents that you would hand to your opposing counsel, in fact, if they're documents you want to hand to your opposing counsel, that's fine, but you still have to answer the question, do you want Snowden and everyone else on the planet to have them? Because none of the technology that an average attorney is going to use for cloud software is going to be adequate encryption. There are encrypted cloud services, but for the average small to mid-sized attorney, It's cost prohibitive, but more importantly, it's absolutely unnecessary, okay? You can put an SD card in a bubble pack, overnight it to whatever attorney or whatever person you want, and they have every piece of paper you need. However, there is one relatively expensive piece of technology that if you're a small to mid-sized attorney or even a large firm, and quite frankly, I get giggles every time I go into a big law firm and I look at some of their antiquated copying equipment. Because I'm thinking, are you kidding me? They can write this stuff off. I remember, and I don't want to pick on them, but I'm going to. I was with my brother in a law firm in Harrisburg, Barvin & Barvin, and he decided to go back to Johnstown, eventually became the state rep, and I was going to open an office in Mechanicsburg, but Dick Dowling, an attorney in town, had been in remission and went out of remission and died, and he orphaned a number of cases at a local law firm. And I was available and went as of counsel for a period of time just to clean up those cases. It was a specific assignment kind of deal. And when I got to their place, I had a really good copying machine. My copying machine, it scanned a PDF, it printed high speed, it printed high quality, high definition, and their copiers, I mean, they reminded me of the Flintstone bus. I mean, they were old school. I mean, they were so old school when they faxed. I was using WinFax Pro at the time, which you got an image of whatever you faxed with the header saying how many pages it was received, and somebody said they didn't get the fax. You're like, oh, really? Are you sure? Are you really sure? It was a Joe Pesci moment. I mean, it was one of those great things because you pull out the document. They were still getting those reports that don't mean anything. You know, you fax something to somebody and it was successful. Great. That proves nothing. I brought my copier with me. By the way, copying moving people never get tipped. So if you give them a bottle of wine at Christmas or you tip them, they will remember you. And when you need your copier moved on short notice, they will make it happen for you. Because they apparently nobody tips the guy who moves the copier. Who knew? But I certainly did, and it worked out real well for me because I've moved that copier or its replacement 4 times. And the same group of people come and they get the same bottle of wine every time. But if you have a good copier, I have a color laser copier. For those of you who got the programs here rather than printing them out yourself, that program was printed on my copier, okay? It collates up to 50 pages, it'll staple it, it'll 3-hole punch it, it'll burp you if you want to. You can do it black and white, or you can do it color, you can do it high-grade color, you can do it low-grade color, and the color cost per page is like 2 cents maybe. I mean, it's ridiculously low cost per page. The companies that sell the devices will give you a financing program so that you're paying just like you pay for a Lexus, you know, so many $100 a month. And quite frankly, you know, I don't bill out to clients individual costs like Lexus or like copying. But if you're a small solo practice and you want to divide it up, you could easily add the $25 to each client who was using it on the monthly bill and pays for itself. But the professionalism, I mean, look at the pictures in that brochure and ask yourself, if you are submitting to the court and there is a photographic exhibit, we've all been in court where our opposing counsel has given us a photographic exhibit and we're scratching our heads trying to figure out what the heck the photograph's of because it's so hazy, so scratchy. I can't imagine why in today's world somebody wouldn't have a 600 DPI printer for court materials. Also, since we're talking about court materials and since I have ADD, we're going to go back to the program for a second. And I want to talk about a program that you all know really well, but I want to tell you about something that you really need to know. And that's your Word program, okay? If you have a reasonably current version of Word, I mean, I'm talking anything 2000 2003 and beyond. Okay? Before 2003, you know, get on your dinosaur, ride down to the rock quarry, ask Fred to give you his throwaway because it's probably more current than yours. But on the Word program, when you open it, most people, most lawyers, their secretaries know this, but most lawyers don't. That ribbon at the top, you can adjust that. Okay? You can click on it and add functions to it. When you click on it, right click on it, then you have a drop down menu and it says, you know, common commands. Skip that one. Go to all commands. Because you want to add at least two things. One, if you do appellate practice at all, you absolutely have to put a word count button on your ribbon. Because they just passed new rules, went into effect in May, and there are specific numbers of words that are permitted for briefs, and if you have more than 20 pages or more than X pages, then you have to give a certification of your word count. Well, you don't have to count the words, folks. There's a button for that. And if you put the ribbon, if you go into the menu, put the word count button onto it, frankly, I would also put the footnote button there, because it's real convenient. If you want to drop a footnote in a text, to just hit the button. Those things are automatic in the program. I also, I do a lot of charts in Word. You know, I don't use Excel. It's very hard to use Excel to do your exhibit list and your deposition digest and that kind of thing. So I create charts in Word. If you add to the toolbar, there's a ribbon bar, that's the top one, and then there's a toolbar. On the toolbar, that's your save, delete, go back, you know, those buttons. If you go across there, you can put more buttons. And the 4 buttons that I recommend are 5 buttons. Add chart, and that's the button that allows you to start a chart, and you just like 4 cells, 4 rows, whatever, however you want to structure it. And then you want add row, add column, delete row, delete column. And that allows you very quickly, while you're going through and writing a document, let's say you want to do things in chronological order, but the documents aren't in chronological order. By having the add button, you just go up to wherever the date would be, add above, and you keep rolling, and you don't have to reformat, you don't have to do any of the work. Those buttons are, in my experience, when I've talked to different attorneys about how they draft, they don't do that. Another thing that surprises me is most attorneys are still using one monitor. Okay? Almost every computer made today is made with a HDMI port and a VGA port. Okay? I will show on the back of this machine, for show and tell purposes, the HDMI is the little oblong, but not quite oblong, place there. And this is our old friend, the VGA. Now, here's the deal. You can plug 2 monitors in. One becomes your main monitor, one becomes your extra monitor, and then you go down and you choose extend. Okay? That allows you to have 2 screens. Why do we care about 2 screens? Okay. If you have 2 24-inch screens, they were here earlier, they used the phrase, our interns, go big or go home. Okay, on monitors, I actually have 3 monitors that are in the picture on the program. I have a big monitor in the middle, it's like 32 inches, and then I have 2 24s on either side. The reason why I do that is, when you are about to create a document, okay, 90% of the time, you already have a document that you're going to start from, or you can create a shell. But you also have PDFs and Word documents that you're going to